Hi friends, today's book is called The Ugly Vegetables, and that is the title of the book. And the author is Grace Lin. Ugly vegetables. Do vegetables look ugly to you ever? The Ugly Vegetables by Grace Lin. For my mom and her ugly gardens, it says. In the spring, I helped my mother start our garden. We used tall shovels to turn the grass upside down, and I saw pink worms wiggling around. It was hard work. When we stopped to rest, we saw that the neighbors were starting their gardens too. Hello, Irma, my mother called to Mrs. Crewmarine. Mrs. Crewmarine was digging too. She was using a small shovel, one that fit in her hand. Mommy, I asked, why are we using such a big shovels? Mrs. Crewmarine has a small one because our garden needs more digging, she said. I helped my mother plant the seeds, and we dragged the hose to the garden. Hi, Linda. Hi, Mickey, I called to the Fitzgeralds. They were sprinkling water on their garden with the green watering cans. Mommy, I asked, why are you using a hose? Well, Linda and Mickey use watering cans because our garden needs more water, she said. So she's comparing what her neighbors are doing. How come she's using a small shovel? We're using a large shovel. How come they're using watering cans and we're using this big hose? Then my mother drew funny pictures on pieces of paper and stuck them into the garden. Hello, Roseanne, my mother called across the street to Mrs. Angel Howe. Mommy, I asked, why are you sticking those papers in the garden? Mrs. Angel Howe has seed packages in her garden because our garden is going to grow Chinese vegetables, she told me. These are the names of the vegetables in Chinese, so I can tell which plants are growing where. One day I saw our garden growing. Little green stems that looked like grass had popped out from the ground. Our garden's growing! Yay! I yelled. Our garden's growing! I rushed over to the neighbors' gardens to see if theirs had grown. Their plants looked like little leaves. Mommy, I asked, why do our plants look like grass? And the neighbors' plants look different. Because they're growing flowers, she said. We can't. Why can't we grow flowers? I asked. These are better than flowers, she said. Soon all the neighbors' gardens were blooming up and down the street, grew rainbows of flowers. The wind always smelled sweet, and butterflies and bees flew everywhere. Everyone's garden was beautiful except for ours. Our garden was all dark, green, and ugly. Why didn't we grow flowers? I asked. These are better than flowers, Mommy said again. I looked, but saw only black, purple-green vines, fuzzy, wrinkled leaves, prickly stems, and a few little yellow flowers. I don't think so, I said. You wait and see, Mommy said. So all her neighbors have beautiful flowers and she doesn't have any pretty flowers in her garden. And her mom keeps saying, be patient, right? This will be better. This will be better. Before long, our vegetables grew. Some were big and lumpy. Some were thin and green and covered with bumps. Some were just plain icky yellow. They were ugly vegetables. Sometimes I would go over to the neighbors and look at their pretty gardens. They would show the poppies, and the peonies, and the petunias to me, and I would feel sad that our garden wasn't as nice. So what's the difference between the neighbor's garden and their garden? Yeah, the neighbor's garden, they grew flowers. Can you eat flowers? Not flowers. Plants, but not flowers. And so she is growing, and her mommy are growing what? Vegetables. Ugly vegetables, she calls them. Can you eat ugly vegetables? Yes. One day, Mother and I picked the vegetables from the garden. We filled a whole wheelbarrow full of them. We wheeled them to the kitchen. My mother washed them, took a big knife, and started to chop them. "Ay-yow!" she said when she cut them. She had to use all her muscles. The vegetables were hard and tough. "This is shou huang guo," Mommy said, handing me a bumpy, curled vegetable. She pointed at the other vegetables. "This is shanzi. That's a tongue hua." I went outside to play. While I was playing catch with Mickey, a magical aroma filled the air. I saw the neighbors standing on their porches with their eyes closed, smelling the sky. Close your eyes, pretend you smell it, something really yummy cooking. They took deep breaths of air like they're trying to eat the smell. Oh, what do you think is happening? Who's cooking? That's fine. The wind carried it up and down the street. Even the bees and the butterflies seemed to smell the scent in the air. I smelled it too, and it made me hungry, and it was coming from my house. Oh, so who's cooking that yummy smell? Her mommy. It's coming from her house. Her mommy's cooking those ugly vegetables, and it smells so delicious. When I followed the smell to my house, my mother was putting a big bowl of soup on the table. The soup was yellow and red and green and pink. "This is a special soup," Mommy said, and she smiled. She gave me a small bowl full of it, and I tasted it. It was so good. The flavors of the soup seemed to dance in my mouth and laugh all the way down to my tummy. "Do you like it?" Mommy said. I nodded my head and held out my bowl for some more. "It's made from our vegetables," she told me. Then the doorbell rang. Ding dong! And I ran to open the door. It was the best dinner ever! Oh, look at, they invited the neighbors to come over and try their delicious, ugly vegetable soup. All our neighbors were standing at the door holding flowers. We noticed you were cooking. Mrs. Fitzgerald laughed as he held out his flowers. "We thought maybe you might be interested in a trade." We laughed too, and my mother gave them each their own bowl of her special soup. Oh, look at, they're trading the flowers for the soup. So now they get to look at the beautiful flowers in their home. My mother told them what each vegetable was and how she grew it. She gave them the soup recipe and put some soup into jars for them to take home. I ate 5 bowls of soup. Oh my goodness, that's a lot of soup. She must have really, really liked that soup. The next spring, when my mother was starting her garden, we planted some flowers next to the Chinese vegetables. Mrs. Crummerine, the Fitzgeralds, and the Angel House planted some Chinese vegetables next to their flowers. Soon the whole neighborhood was growing Chinese vegetables in their gardens. Up and down the street, little green plants poked out of the ground. Some looked like leaves and some looked like grass, and when the flowers started blooming, you could smell soup in the air. Aww. Oh, those are the names of the ugly vegetables. And there is the recipe for the ugly vegetable soup, if you'd want to try it at home. So, what a great story, huh? So the next year she shared the Chinese vegetable recipe, and the neighbors said, we want to make this soup every year too. And so they grew their own Chinese vegetables along with their flowers, and she got to also have a flower garden next to their Chinese ugly vegetables, right? Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for listening.